name is Kobe Hatcher, and today I'll be walking you guys through the impact of streaming on music culture. The first machine printed music appeared around 1473, setting in motion the beginning of a music industry. The first iteration of the record player, the phonograph, was invented in 1877 by Thomas Edison. Vinyl records were introduced in the 1930s and remained the dominant format until the late 1970s. By the early 1990s, CDs had become the most dominant format. With the internet evolving, the worldwide revenues for recorded music fell by 50% between 1999 and 2009. Then, the beginning of the download era. Apple's iTunes Store arrived in April 2003. Only 5 years later, it became the biggest music vendor in the United States and then led to being the world's largest in 2010. YouTube remains the biggest music streaming platform overall, as that is where you initially access famous artists' music videos. Spotify launched in 2008 with monthly subscription fees. In 2015, Apple launched Apple Music, which is very similar to Spotify. These streaming platforms allowed us to have the easiest access to music and listen to whatever we want with just our phones. Physical music formats like vinyl records and CDs allow for a more tactile and sensory experience. The physical forms of music allow for great tangibility as the listeners are able to touch and hold their music. The tangibility of this could also allow for the user to have stronger emotional connection to their music as they have more memories with these physical copies, like buying the disc or receiving the music as a gift. In contrast, the music listeners access through digital streaming platforms are intangible and lack that physicality, yet most appreciate the convenience and accessibility of the intangible music access. Streaming allows for manipulability, with the ability to create playlists. Listeners of these streaming platforms often have playlists with their favorite songs. This gives users great manipulability of the music that they prefer to hear and avoid songs that they might not know or care to listen to. Since they have these playlists with just songs that they like, it creates a vast amount of repeatability as well. With the limited selection of songs on these playlists, it is more likely that they will keep playing these songs over and over again. Repeatability also allows for listeners to skip back in songs and replay different verses. The impact of streaming music culture has allowed for a larger rise of algorithmic curation. Because of how listeners search for the music they like and want to hear and add to playlists, these streaming services are able to acknowledge these searches and create an algorithm designed specifically for that user. For example, Spotify often comes out with a monthly playlist of songs that they pick out for you that they think you will like based on the music you are listening to or have saved. Although this is a cool feature, it can create a lot of challenges for the independent artists that put their music on these sites. Most independent artists do not start out with that many listeners, so they often go unnoticed and won't receive as many streams for their music as they would like to. Spotify puts it in curated playlists with the songs that are most similar to the ones you're already listening to, but they do this by picking the songs that they have more streams and stick out the most, which is fairly challenging for these independent artists to get their music out there because they do not have a large group of listeners. It is also difficult for these independent artists because these online streaming services only allow you to earn fractions of your income per stream. The future of music will most likely follow the same trends we are seeing in modern technology and will continue to improve. Because of how easy these streams are to access with a monthly subscription, it'll probably only become more accessible as technology increases. The diversity in the digital landscape will also just become greater. Years ago, in order to distribute a song, an artist needed a record deal, but now that is not the case. If these artists without a record deal want to be on Spotify or Apple Music, for a fraction of the cost, they can upload them services and they can be instantly accessed worldwide. With that being said, the diversity is just going to increase as people start creating and releasing more and more music. Overall, going into detail of these streaming services puts in perspective how technology has transformed the way we experience, produce, and consume music.